Deep in the mountains of Uruk, three witches huddle around bubbling cauldrons in a pitch-black cave. Steam rises as they chant twisted spells, their voices echoing off stone walls. They're delivering the worst possible news to Max, a demon who's built his empire on terror and human sacrifice. The prophecy hits like a sledgehammer. Max will die by the hand of King Jed's unborn son. This demon doesn't mess around. He immediately orders the witches to eliminate this threat before the kid even takes his first breath. What happens next is straight nightmare fuel. One witch shapeshifts into a cow and sneaks into the royal bedroom where Queen Jed sleeps peacefully. Using dark magic, she transfers the unborn baby from the queen's womb into the cow's belly, then slaughters the queen without mercy. The witch drags the cow deep into the forest and cuts the baby from its stomach. She's about to sacrifice this innocent child when a warrior appears from nowhere, hurling his weapon with deadly accuracy. The witch drops dead instantly. This mysterious warrior doesn't hesitate. He scoops up the helpless infant and vanishes into the wilderness. He names the boy Dar and raises him like his own son, teaching him combat skills and survival techniques. But as years pass, something extraordinary becomes obvious. This kid has supernatural powers that go way beyond normal human abilities. During a training session, a massive bear charges toward them with murder in its eyes. The old warrior freezes in pure terror, but young Dar steps forward without flinching. He locks eyes with this killing machine, and something incredible happens. The bear stops dead, then turns and runs away. The warrior realizes his adopted son can communicate with animals on a level that defies all logic. Fast forward to Dar's adult years. He's become a skilled warrior and farmer, working alongside his village brothers in peaceful harmony. But in this brutal world, peace never lasts. His loyal dog races toward him with urgent warnings. Enemy soldiers are approaching with blood on their minds. Dar sprints barefoot across the countryside, desperate to reach his people before disaster strikes. But he's too late. Jonas and his merciless army have already descended on the village like a plague of locusts. The villagers grab whatever weapons they can find and fight with everything they've got, but they're completely outnumbered. Dar throws himself into battle with savage determination, cutting down enemy soldiers left and right, but there are just too many of them. An arrow pierces his body, and he collapses unconscious while his faithful dog drags him to safety in the forest. When Dar awakens, he returns to find his worst nightmare realized. Every single person in his village lies dead, butchered by Jonas's ruthless troops. The rage building inside Dar burns hotter than any fire. He gathers the bodies of his fallen family and friends, giving them a proper funeral pyre. Total vengeance against Jonas and everyone who follows him. Then he sets out on a mission that will define the rest of his life. Dar wanders the wilderness alone until two mischievous ferrets steal his belt and lead him on a wild chase through dense forest. They guide him straight into a deadly swamp where he sinks fast, fighting desperately for his life. One ferret takes pity on this struggling human and helps him escape by bending a tree branch within reach. Dar not only saves himself, but rescues the ferret too, earning two loyal companions he names Kodo and Podo. These little guys become his first animal allies in what's about to become an epic journey. Their adventure continues through scorching deserts, where Dar's supernatural senses alert him to danger nearby. He discovers hunters trying to capture a magnificent black leopard, but his new ferret allies team up with a sharp-eyed hawk to orchestrate a daring rescue mission. The leopard becomes another member of Dar's growing animal army. At a crystal-clear lake, Dar spots two beautiful women enjoying a peaceful swim. He sends Kodo and Podo to steal their clothes. One woman named Kiri catches the ferrets red-handed and chases after them through the forest. She runs straight into the same leopard Dar just rescued. But instead of attacking, this powerful predator recognizes Dar's scent on her and backs off peacefully. Kiri tackles Dar to the ground, demanding answers about who he is and what he wants. Dar tells her about Jonas's massacre and his burning need for revenge. She's a slave to the witches who control Uruk City, enduring constant torture and abuse. Kiri reveals her own tragic story. When Dar suggests she escape with him, Kiri explains the impossible choice she faces. If she runs away, the witches will murder her entire family in brutal retaliation. Dar follows Kiri toward Uruk City, where true horror awaits anyone brave enough to enter. He discovers an ancient temple perched on a mountaintop and seeks shelter inside during a fierce storm. What he finds makes his blood run ice cold. A man sits trapped in a metal cage while human heads boil in massive cauldrons nearby. Grotesque creatures emerge from the shadows, twisted beings that barely look human anymore. They kill the caged prisoner instantly before turning their hungry attention toward Dar. But this warrior doesn't back down from anyone or anything. He fights these monsters with brutal efficiency. After eliminating the threat, he continues his march toward Uruk City. When Dar finally reaches this cursed place, the sight that greets him is pure, concentrated evil. Max stands atop a towering pyramid, holding a small child above a blazing fire pit, while hundreds of terrified citizens watch in complete silence. Max hurls the innocent child into the flames as an offering to his dark gods, then announces to the crowd that he needs another sacrifice. His followers drag forward a second child, a little girl who can't be more than 5 years old. Dar refuses to let this continue. With his hawk ally providing aerial surveillance, he swoops down from the shadows and rescues the child just as Max prepares to commit another murder. The crowd interprets this dramatic intervention as divine will, but Max isn't about to give up his twisted ritual. He points directly at the rescued child and declares that his gods specifically demand this particular sacrifice. The crowd falls silent, torn between hope and terror. That night, Dar returns the little girl to her desperate parents who've been praying for any kind of miracle. The child's father, Shaco, explains the absolute nightmare their city has become under Max's rule. This demon has imprisoned the rightful King Jed and seized complete control of the throne. He forces young men and women to breed like livestock, creating a steady supply of children for his ritual sacrifices. Every family lives in constant fear that their child will be chosen next for Max's altar. Meanwhile, Max gathers his most trusted followers for an emergency strategy meeting, completely unaware that this person is the same child the witches failed to kill years ago. He's become obsessed with finding the mysterious warrior who can communicate with animals. The next morning, Dar ventures into the forest to scout the area and walks straight into Max's carefully planned trap. The Demon Lord has sent his best scouts equipped with magical mirrors that allow him to spy on targets from miles away, the same mark the witch tried to apply before her death. This is King Jed's son, the prophesied threat to his entire reign of terror. Max orders his followers to kill Dar immediately, but the young warrior's leopard friend arrives just in time to save the day. The big cat fights with absolutely savage fury, giving Dar a precious chance to escape, but falls into a hunter's pit during the chaotic battle. Before Max's soldiers can finish off the trapped leopard, two new allies arrive on the scene. Seth and Tal, experienced resistance fighters who've been secretly building an army to overthrow the Demon Lord's regime. Seth has been traveling from village to village for months. He's also King Jed's son, making him and Dar brothers in blood and in their fight against Max's tyranny. This family connection creates an instant bond between the two warriors. The three of them work together to free the leopard from the pit. Then Seth examines the magical surveillance ring that Max has been using to spy on them. He destroys it by heating the metal with a red-hot iron rod before throwing it into a blazing fire. This completely blinds Max to their movements, giving the resistance a crucial tactical advantage. Using his hawk's superior aerial vision, Dar scouts the entire city from high above the buildings. He spots Kiri and other enslaved women being marched toward what looks like another brutal punishment session in the city center. The three warriors quickly change into civilian disguises and infiltrate Max's heavily guarded stronghold. They launch a devastating surprise attack that catches the enemy completely off guard, rescuing Kiri and eliminating several of Max's most dangerous soldiers in the process. Seth decides to split off from the group to recruit more fighters from surrounding villages while Dar, Tal, and Kiri head back into Uruk City. They hide beneath a merchant's cart loaded with hay and supplies, using this cover to slip past the main gates undetected. Unknown to them, Max is still watching their approach through a backup scrying device. He's planning something even more sinister than his usual torture sessions. Inside the massive palace complex, they discover rooms filled with metal cages containing wild beasts that Max has tortured into mindless killing machines. Lions, bears, wolves, all driven completely insane by months of systematic abuse. Dar uses his incredible acrobatic skills to swing from rope to rope until he reaches a mechanical lever system. He pulls every switch simultaneously. Fighting their way through the confusion, they finally reach King Jed's dungeon cell deep beneath the main building. What they find there is absolutely heartbreaking. Max has blinded the rightful king as part of his psychological torture campaign. Dar carefully bandages his father's wounded eyes just as Max arrives with his most powerful witch allies. The Demon Lord seals them all inside the stone cell with heavy iron bars, announcing his plan to sacrifice them publicly at dawn as entertainment for the city, but Dar's leopard friend has been tracking their scent through the palace corridors. The big cat's arrival sends Max and his witches scrambling for safety in an adjacent chamber. One particularly vicious witch tries a different approach. She attempts to blind Dar with magical light that burns like staring directly into the sun. But Dar uses his supernatural connection with a leopard to see through the animal's eyes instead, allowing him to strike back with deadly accuracy. The witch dies instantly from his counterattack. Dar leads his companions through a maze of corridors until they reach a section of the palace where escape actually seems possible. But Max's entire army is waiting for them. Hundreds of soldiers block every possible exit route, weapons drawn and ready for blood. Dar grabs Kiri and uses a thick rope to rappel down the palace's outer wall. But one of Max's men starts cutting their lifeline with a sharp blade. They crash into Shaco's hay-filled cart far below. The growing group of rebels reaches the city's massive main gate, only to discover it's been locked from the inside, with heavy chains and iron bars. Dar sends his ferret Kodo through a small drainage opening to chew through the rope mechanism that controls the gate's opening system. But Max's entire army arrives before they can complete their escape. Somehow, through desperate fighting and tactical brilliance, they battle their way out of the city and take temporary refuge in an abandoned tavern on the outskirts. Dar tries to explain his battle strategy to the newly rescued King Jed, hoping to gain his father's support for the final assault on Max's forces. But the blinded monarch dismisses him as nothing more than a naive boy who happens to talk to forest animals. These harsh words cut deeper than any sword. Dar storms out of the meeting in complete frustration, feeling like nobody takes his abilities seriously despite everything he's accomplished. While King Jed discusses alternative plans with Seth, the experienced warrior notices something suspicious about Tal's ornate ring. He realizes that Max has been using this jewelry as a magical surveillance device, spying on their every conversation and battle plan. Seth immediately destroys the ring by heating it with a red-hot poker and throwing it into the tavern's fireplace. But the damage is already done. Max has overheard enough to launch a devastating counterattack. When Dar returns from his angry walk in the wilderness, Shaco finds him sitting alone in the desert and delivers the most devastating news possible. Max has captured King Jed, Kiri, Seth, and every other member of their resistance movement. Without a moment's hesitation, Dar races back toward Aruk's city for what he knows will be a final confrontation with the Demon Lord. This time, there's no backup plan and no reinforcements coming to help. Max has already begun his grand execution ceremony by the time Dar infiltrates the city. The Demon Lord's bald-headed followers are dragging Kiri up the pyramid stone steps for public sacrifice, while all the other prisoners watch helplessly from cages positioned around the base. Dar sends his ferret Podo into the cage system with instructions to chew through every rope binding his captured allies. As Max raises his ceremonial dagger above Kiri's heart, Dar launches his attack from the shadows. He moves like a force of nature, systematically eliminating every one of Max's bald followers with deadly precision and combat skills that seem almost superhuman. In complete desperation, Max decides to reveal Dar's true identity to everyone present. He announces that this warrior is actually King Jed's son and the rightful heir to the throne. Then, in a final act of pure evil, Max drives his dagger straight into King Jed's heart, killing him in front of his own son. Dar explodes with rage unlike anything he's ever felt before. He attacks Max with savage fury. Using every fighting technique he's learned, he beats the Demon Lord unconscious and leaves him crumpled on the pyramid's stone platform. As Dar carefully lifts Kiri and begins carrying her down from the pyramid, Max recovers consciousness and launches a sneak attack from behind. His blade is inches from Dar's back when Podo the ferret leaps onto Max's face, clawing at his eyes and sending him stumbling backward into the roaring fire pit. Max burns to ash within seconds, his screams echoing across the entire city before falling silent forever. But the victory celebration is cut short by an even bigger threat. Jonas arrives at the city gates with his entire army, planning to claim Aruk for himself while everyone is exhausted from the battle with Max's forces. Dar and the newly liberated citizens of Aruk fight through the entire night in the most brutal combat any of them have ever experienced. As morning sunlight streams across the liberated city, Dar prepares to leave with his leopard companion. Seth approaches him with a reminder that as King Jed's son, he's now the rightful heir to the throne and should stay to rule his people. But Dar has absolutely no interest in wearing a crown or sitting on a throne. He's a wanderer at heart, destined for adventures that exist beyond any kingdom's borders. Political power means nothing to someone whose true strength comes from the bonds he shares with the natural world. Kiri makes the decision to join him for whatever journeys lie ahead. Together they walk toward the sunrise, leaving behind a city that's finally free from demonic rule. This is how the legend of Dar the Beastmaster truly begins. not with a crown or a throne, but with a choice to forge his own destiny. Somewhere beyond the horizon, new adventures wait for this warrior who speaks with animals and fights alongside creatures that most people fear. The story ends with Dar disappearing into the wilderness, a free man who chose friendship over power, proving that real strength doesn't come from ruling others, but from the unbreakable bonds between those who fight side by side against the darkness that threatens to consume everything good in the world.